Here's a fact that should stop you in your tracks. By dawn, over 60 armored vehicles had been destroyed or disabled in Donbass, all from a force that entered the night expecting to overwhelm. How could this many tanks vanish under the weight of artillery, drones, and mines in a single coordinated strike? That question has military analysts still talking today. What began as a massive armored assault ended as one of the clearest demonstrations of modern ISR-led defense. Stick with us, because the numbers tell a story more shocking than anyone on the ground expected. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Imagine 87 tanks crawling forward under cover of darkness, their engines muttering low and heavy, while every nearby village stayed silent. It wasn't just tanks either. Mixed into the column were armored carriers and infantry fighting vehicles, each following headlights blacked out, moving as a single body of steel across the frozen lowlands. Models from another era, like T-62s, drove nose to tail with heavier T-72s. Between them rolled BTR-80s, stuffed with troops, and BMP-2s, designed to punch through defensive lines. Together they stretched nearly 2 miles in length, a convoy built specifically to overwhelm defenders by sheer density and pressure. The danger wasn't simply in the number of vehicles. Every machine carried trained crews inside, men convinced they were about to punch through weak resistance and press on with open ground behind them. For any defender, the sight of so much armor advancing in silence meant one thing. If those vehicles reached their objectives intact, entire towns and supply depots standing kilometers away would be steamrolled in hours. The point of armored masses like this was simple: saturate the front lines so completely that localized defenses collapse before they can bring precision weapons to bear. Ukrainian units had faced this before and knew exactly what the column could do if it rolled through unchecked. Terrain played its own role in turning the night march into something more precarious. The vehicles were funneled onto a stretch of narrow roads, running between snow-packed valleys. Massive machines weighing more than 40 tons relied on those thin corridors to advance. The shoulders of the road sloped into drifts of ice and thick mud, limiting room to maneuver. On both sides rose low ridges that offered natural choke points. Anyone watching from above could see it was the perfect place to trap a column, yet also a dangerous spot for defenders if the convoy broke through quickly. Every turn along that stretch risked becoming either a wall or an opening. Meanwhile, coordination between Russian and North Korean crews fed confidence to those moving forward. Spotters posted kilometers ahead signaled clear paths using encrypted radios. Drones hovered quietly above tree lines, scanning for ambushes but seeing nothing in the frozen stillness. The air of confidence spread down the line. Drivers pushed faster. Commanders spoke in clear tones, convinced opposing forces had retreated or been blinded. Even truck-mounted search radars swept the skies, noting no Ukrainian aircraft nearby. It looked like a free passage corridor with men inside the machines, starting to believe the push would meet only token resistance. On the other side, Ukrainian positions remained silent. No rockets streaked out to hit the lead tank. No artillery boomed from ridgelines. The convoy continued rolling deeper, and still, the defenders gave nothing away. For anyone watching from the reconnaissance drones overhead, silence implied weakness. Yet silence in war rarely means nothing. Why would defenders allow nearly 90 armored vehicles to edge straight into their lines with no resistance? The first sign came suddenly. A tank's left track met a mine buried beneath the packed soil. The detonations snapped through the quiet valley, blowing off 50 tons of armor from the line. To the crews behind, it looked accidental, maybe a mine left unspotted. But the reality was different. That single blast was not negligence. It was design. Everything about that frozen valley had been prepared. Beneath it was an interlocking weave of explosives. At its edge were artillery grids already plotted. Watching from satellites and UAVs were operators updating live coordinates. The column had not pierced a weak defense. It had entered a kill zone already mapped to the meter. The real solution, however, involved far more than explosives beneath the ground. Hidden in the night sky were satellites, long loitering drones, and Europe's sharpest intelligence tools, feeding data into a trap weeks in the making. A single anti-tank mine exploding was not an accident. It was the start of something that had been engineered for weeks. The ground didn't just happen to conceal one charge. It was layered with interconnected traps, mapped out in advance. Long before the first tracked vehicle ever crossed that stretch, surveillance flights by small drones charted every fold in the terrain. From above, operators could see the places where tanks clustered, the dips in the earth where they would naturally funnel, and the thin paths of road that forced steel onto narrow lines. Satellites filled in the gaps by following the convoy's steps each day of its approach, confirming routes, equipment types, and numbers. Special forces had already moved ahead of time, marking approaches, studying points where tracked vehicles would slow under ice and snow. By the evening of the attack, the column had been predicted down to its timing. But here's the doubt that matters. Could any of this preparation really stop nearly 90 vehicles? Mine lanes could block some, artillery could burn a segment, but momentum that massive usually breaks through. That was the calculation made by crews driving the armored machines. A simple confidence that numbers create safety. Yet, precision networks controlled from miles away shifted the balance. Ukrainian gunners were not just armed with maps, they were armed with real-time data. British and French intelligence feeds streamed directly into the fire control systems. Each moving tank created a digital trace, a live coordinate that pathfinders could target instantly. What looked like a dark, silent valley was, in reality, lit up in detail on every Ukrainian console. It came together at 3:21 a.m. That's the moment the lead tank hit the buried charge. Steel teeth of the track blew skyward, the machine locked in place, smoke spilling from a shredded chassis. Seconds later, a second detonation rocked the line. This time, an armored carrier took the hit, stranding troops inside as its wheels tore apart in fire. To the rest of the column, confusion mixed with urgency. Radars swept, commanders barked, but then came the cascade. The lanes weren't built with random mines. They were designed in layers. One detonation pushed vehicles outward into overlapping fields where booby-trapped charges waited. Tanks backing up ignited hidden explosives. Infantry dismounts triggered pressure-sensitive charges set into mud. Flames leapt from fuel tanks, each fire feeding the next. The still night became a theater of rolling explosions, each one set to lead the convoy deeper into destruction. Artillery then joined. Out beyond visual range, two batteries fired with pre-calculated arcs, rounds that landed on the exact coordinates, updated by drones flying miles above. HIMARS units, positioned almost 18 miles away, released precision rockets that struck the middle of the column, cutting it in half so no retreat or reinforcement could move in or out. Swarming FPV drones, equipped with shaped charges, picked off individual tanks still grinding their engines, steering straight into weak points above turrets and engine decks. Not every survivor remained in armor. Some crews poured out and tried to press through the mud on foot or climb into surviving vehicles to push forward. That's where anti-tank teams lay in wait. From concealed positions, operators hoisted javelins and NLAWs, locking onto silhouettes in the cold night. A T-4S, fired at close range, chewed through whatever machines still tried to claw forward. Survivors now met man-portable weapons that finished what the explosives and artillery had started. That single anti-tank blast did more than disable one vehicle. It unfolded into a controlled chain of destruction. Each detonation, each fire mission, each drone strike was part of a sequence already planned. ISR Precision guaranteed not one machine escaped the trap. By dawn, the convoy that entered confidently had lost momentum entirely, reduced to burning vehicles lining the valley floor. When the smoke cleared, soldiers who unleashed destruction also carried stretchers toward wounded prisoners. The same coordination that shattered steel paused to pump morphine, bind wounds, and transport men who hours earlier had aimed their weapons. So here's the question. If intelligence can rewrite the math of war overnight, how should power and restraint be balanced next?